YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with another updated NFL mock draft after those semifinal playoff games, which actually changed a bit, including the first overall pick, maybe the first overall player in general in this class. So changing that, changed pretty much everything there. So I'm excited to break this down. I also have a pretty big trade in this one as well. So very excited. Full NFL coverage here. We have weekly content for in-season, the playoffs. Can't wait for our playoff content. And of course, the off-season. So check out our channel if you like it. Like, subscribe to notifications on any of the videos and on the channel there. So much appreciated. Follow us on Twitter. It's on your screen as a link pinned in the comments. A must follow for that. Live news, rumors, updates, talking during live games as well. There's also links pinned in the comments for our sponsors. GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Code GOAT, rocking that Tampa Bay Bucks chain from the GLD Shop. They have more NFL teams. Bucks clinched that NFC South yesterday. But again, links down below if you want to check out any of those things there. But to the mock, and as you can tell on your screen, we do have a pretty big trade between two division rivals. We will break that down, but CJ Stroud, first overall pick to the Houston Texans, had a monster, incredible game against the best defense in the country. People call it an NFL defense in the Georgia Bulldogs. Stroud's team, Ohio State, did fall just short, but he was just incredible. I mean, showed everything you needed to see against that defense. I knew he was good. I wasn't expecting him to be, maybe quite that good in a game like that, but man, show us everything. I think the main thing is pocket presence, pocket awareness. The footwork was great too, avoiding pressure with the footwork, but with his athleticism too. And I don't know where those knocks came that, he doesn't have the athleticism and mobility. That's a bunch of BS. Obviously, he's a pass first guy that can move, but the way he sees the field too, and some of the throws he was making, far sideline, just an incredible game for him. Looked like an NFL quarterback. Looked very pro ready. Maybe he had some games that he didn't really seem like himself. Later in the year, maybe in certain weather, the cold. The Northwestern game was windy as hell. Could play a little better in those games, but it was some tough environments, I suppose. But it sure looks like an NFL quarterback, pro-ready, a lot of upside. Prototypical size is a big thing as well, especially when comparing to a guy like Bryce Young. So this really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. I did have Stroud as number one guy heading in, if you remember, heading into this year. Bryce Young still could be that number one guy. So flashy, so good. He had a really good game against Kansas State as well. I just think teams be more comfortable with Stroud. That performance against an NFL-like defense in Georgia and having that size, unlike Bryce Young there. So I have CJ Stroud to the Texans, number one overall. And I could be sticking with that for a bit, maybe the whole way. So this is where we get interesting. Number two currently is Chicago Bears. And they could actually get the first overall pick still, which could be very, very interesting because they have their choice from anybody in the draft, or they can trade back for even more than what I have them trading back here, which we'll talk about that. The Lions, Jared Goff playing pretty damn well, and he's probably going to be their starting quarterback next year. But they have two picks, and they're pretty damn fortunate. Hell of a job by them, Brad Holmes, getting the Rams. This is from the Rams, which is currently at 6. So when is that going to happen? Lions are getting better and better. They could possibly sneak into playoffs this year. So when are they going to have this good of a pick? This is their opportunity to go up and get their guy. I think Bryce Young will be very good in their offense, even if he, has to learn a year from Jared Goff. He doesn't have to, but that they could benefit from that possibly. Bonus is they drafted Jameson Williams, his receiver, in the first round last year, and they weren't afraid. Not only were they not afraid to go up and get him pretty far, they weren't afraid to trade with a division rival, the Minnesota Vikings, then, and with the Hawkinson trade. So they definitely would not be afraid to trade with the Chicago Bears. The question is, would the Bears want to do it? And there's a lot of talk. That's why I had the Bears trading. There's a lot of talk about the Bears moving down, whether they have 1 or 2. They could stay put. We had some scenarios recently of them staying put at 2. But they could trade down. So I thought this made a lot of sense. So why not the Colts? Colts at 5, definitely a possibility. But they have other needs. They want to get that offensive line back on track. Bears probably be seeking an extra first round pick, or a load of other picks, if not an extra first, with the swap, obviously. The Colts can't afford to do that. They may do it, but they can't afford to do that. And the Falcons, do they want to go from 7 to 2? Give up that future pick when it might be a very high pick again next year when it's a pretty good quarterback class? I don't know if it made a ton of sense for the Falcons for that reason either. The Raiders, it could be. I could see them just staying in win now mode, going for a guy like Tom Brady, perhaps. They're probably going to trade Derek Carr, but they could have the ammo if they trade Derek Carr. So Raiders a possibility. Titans are a sneaky team. It's a pretty far trade up, trade back. The Lions have an extra first-round pick this year. They're going to be real. I think they're going to be a pretty good team going forward, so they'd be willing to trade picks here. So that it made a lot of sense. Going up and get a guy like Bryce Young. So I'll give you the trade details. And I've been pretty good at matching up on value. So this is correct value here. And we could be a small pick off if this trade actually happens, but this would be equal value. So a swap of the 2nd overall pick and the 6th overall pick. Of course, there's still one more week left. The Bears could get the 1st overall pick. The Lions from the Rams could get a different pick than 6. But the Lions also currently have their own pick, the 17th overall pick. Remember, that can change as well. So the Bears actually get both those picks. They get 2 first-round picks out of it here. And they'd get thrown a 2024 third-round pick as well to match up on that. The third-round pick this year would have been a little bit too much value. So if you throw in the third-round pick this year, the Bears would have to send something, in my opinion, based on value back to the Lions. I don't think the Bears want to do that, so they grab a third-round pick for next year. So they get the pick twice in the first round. The Bears just need more players as well. So that really worked out. And the Lions, of course, go up and get Bryce Young. We will talk about the Bears pick when we get there, and they'll have another pick in this scenario here in our first-round mock. Seahawks go Will Anderson. The Lions hopped in for Bryce Young. I actually think the Seahawks would be interested in Bryce Young. Could be like their Russell Wilson. They could be interested in Will Levis as well, but they're looking for pass rush help. Will Anderson is an elite prospect, obviously from Alabama. Played in that game against Kansas State, had a really good game as well. I like that pick there for the Seahawks. Jalen Carter, who was a little quiet against Ohio State in that game, which was an offensive game, but the Cardinals grab him. The Cardinals could go offensive line as well because they definitely need offensive line help. It was pretty beat up this year, and it wasn't good, obviously. Murray and other quarterbacks pressure a ton. But Carter, an elite prospect, too good to pass on. A guy that gets that interior pressure, also stops to run at a high level, can move around a little bit, too. Colts, I like Will Levis for them. Finding that, is he going to be Andrew Luck? Probably not, but, it has that upside. He has that upside. Big body quarterback, has the arm strength. Has some good play on tape. Has that deep ball. Wasn't as good this year compared to last year. Lost his offense coordinator. Offensive line was awful. Didn't love the play calling either. Just love the upside there. So the Colts kind of could be in that rebuild mode. Will Levis could be that rebuild quarterback. So you see 3 quarterbacks off the board there. The Bears, we talked about it. They traded back, and they're going to kind of complete their starting tackle room because Braxton Jones is looking pretty promising, the rookie. And Broderick Jones from Georgia, they could add him in there with them. And I've been hearing recently, especially after that playoff game, that several teams believe that Broderick Jones could be that first tackle taken. A lot of people have been saying Skoronski. I've been saying Skoronski a bit, but there are some teams that view Jones as that guy, like the movement skills, the quickness and the upside that he presents there. And the Bears are looking for guys like that, with the movement, the athletic ability, some of the eye-popping traits there. So, Finish that tackle duo there, and that looks pretty damn good for the future there, so it really gives them a boost. So that's why I like that for the Bears. And then the Falcons go Brian Branch. A little bit of thought that maybe he could go, he may not be coming to the draft, but he did declare actually earlier today. I was waiting on some of those Bama guys, and the big-time guys declared, and he had a really good season. I was going to say game against Kansas State, but a really good season. Defensive back, going to the Falcons here, who definitely could use another DB. What I like about Branch, some people say safety, throw out this safety. He's the best safety in the class. Not really, like he can play safety. He can play this, but, all over the secondary. But I don't know if I view him as just a safety, so I don't think of him as, in the back, playing in the back end. But he does a bit of everything, but I really like him covering guys in the slot. A lot of man coverage, really good man coverage from the slot, solid in zone. We seen him get an interception against Kansas State where he left his kind of jurisdiction and made a play somewhere else. I love that. So Branch could be the very best defensive back in the class after monster season. So I think the Falcons could definitely use a guy in the mix, with the rest of their young players in the secondary. AJ Terrell, and Richie Grant, guys like that. Add another guy that can just go anywhere, help assist with all these guys here. It just feels like a Dean Pease type of player here. We've seen them run more man coverage this year. Last year, it was pretty much all zone. They wanted to run more man this year, and they were doing so. And the defense was better this year. They had some low-scoring games that they're in because of that, so a lot better. So I actually really like the fit. And this guy could be soaring up the boards right now. Maybe not talked about enough. The Raiders go Peter Skoronski. Could they trade up for a quarterback? Could they take a quarterback here? Possibility. They want to win now. Offensive line could be better, obviously. So plug in Skoronski maybe at the right tackle position. Even Colton Miller didn't look that great this year, but he's their guy, obviously, out there. So pair those two together and then protect whoever the quarterback's going to be, whether it's a veteran guy or not. So that pick made sense to me as well. And then the next 8 picks, Panthers, I had this in my last one. The Panthers could trade up for a quarterback. I thought about them with the Bears too. That was the main one. Could the Colts and Falcons afford to trade their next year first round pick? I don't know. Panthers, maybe more likely to. Maybe Titans even. So I thought about the Panthers. The Lions one just made a lot of sense to me, even though they're division rivals. But I liked Myles Murphy for the Panthers. They were missing, some edge help, maybe, opposite of Brian Burns. So get him some help. Burns also do a new contract. They'll probably give it to him. But add a guy like Murphy, who I think fits their defense, and he's big body guy that can help stop the run. And there's rumors that he's supposed to be able to run like a 4.5 or test very well at the combine. So that's kind of a bonus. He's very young as well, so a lot of upside for a physical defensive end like this. Eagles from the Saints go Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback from Oregon. Lengthy, lockdown type guy. Love the movement skills. Eagles got some veteran corners. Bradbury going to be a free agent. Slay playing great. How long is he going to be around for? When's he going to start to decline? Maybe it doesn't look like soon, but it's got to be somewhere in the near future. So grabbing that corner could be big. I had this last time as well. Titans taking Paris Johnson Jr., another Ohio State tackle. They got Nicholas Petit-Frere, who was pretty solid for them. They badly need more tackle help. They badly need more help there. So Dennis Daly was brutal at left tackle this year. So Johnson Jr., who also can play guard. That's the only thing I worry about here with the Titans, because they drafted a different player. But they drafted Radens, and they just could not figure out if they like him they still don't know if they like him at guard or tackle more, but different type of prospect here. So I do like them adding another Ohio State guy in there. Speaking of Ohio State, I had the Texans drafting C.J. Stroud, first overall Ohio State quarterback. Now we'll have them take Ohio State receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was a monster in that Rose Bowl game last year, obviously, and kind of showcased his skill set, what he's about to be. Another Ohio State receiver, top tier. 2 of them went in the first round last year, and he was beat up this year. We barely got to see him. He played. He logged in 3 games, but he didn't really play full 3 games at all. I think he was able to go, more than that. They were kind of just playing it safe with him. So the Texans grabbed that receiver. I thought about Quentin Johnston, who had a monster game in that playoff game here, but they're probably more likely to go get another Buckeye here. Him and Stroud. That would make some sense to me. Jets go Brian Bruze, defensive line from Clemson. So the Jets always looking for interior help, so they get another guy here that could provide some interior pressure. Commanders go at Michael Mayer. I think the Commanders will be pretty active looking for a veteran quarterback, maybe a Derek Carr. But Mayer, they have Logan Thomas, solid tight end, not going to be around forever, though, getting a little bit up there in age, seen an injury this year as well for a little bit. So adding a sure thing tight end here in Mayer to add, their receivers looking pretty good now. They got some receivers out there. It's not just Terry McLaurin anymore. So adding that tight end to the mix, that's a serious threat. Cause some mismatch problems, take some focus away from the other receivers. Could be big time. If they had a guy like Derek Carr, we're getting too specific now, but those receivers, Michael Mayer, those running backs, pretty scary. Steelers go Drew Sanders. This feels like a Mike Tomlin type guy. Off-ball linebacker that is used in different ways. Could line him up off the edge as well. A lot of blitzing. Pretty good in coverage when we've seen him this year too. Used to play for Alabama, obviously didn't work there, goes to Arkansas, lights it up. So just feel like the Steelers could take him and get pretty creative with him, and they could use that linebacker help as it is. So I did like that fit. Packers went with Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, and they got 2 solid guys right now. Gary is injured right now, and Preston Smith. Solid for them, not going to be around forever. They could definitely use some more edge help. Anagbari looked pretty solid for them as well, but they definitely could use some more. I think the future of this could be Gary, who they missed, this year, even though they're rolling right now, and Wilson could be the future starters, and they have kind of a rotation to go along with it there. And Wilson can move around a bit as well, but super productive there at Texas Tech the last couple of years. Rare for Texas Tech defenders, so really standing out there. So I like that pick for the Packers there at 16, and they're pretty close to making the playoffs, so it might not be this high of a pick as we get to after this week, as in our future mock drafts there. Next 8 picks, we got from the trade that we talked about in the beginning of the video. The Lions and the Bears made a deal. The Bears acquired both the Lions' first-round picks. The Bears take a tackle. Now they take that receiver, Quentin Johnston, who lit up not only that playoff game, but the whole season as well. Kind of a do-it-all, big-body receiver. You see the speed on him as well. So the Bears really, really helped Justin Fields here with these picks. So kind of acquiring more talent around their quarterback that they're trying to get to improving on the passing game. We see what he can do with his legs, but this definitely should help. Only thing with this is, what they want, because they have that big body guy in Claypool, definitely a different style receiver. They also have Mooney as well, so kind of maybe adding all 3 of those guys together for, Justin Fields could be big. Dolphins did forfeit their pick, obviously. Seahawks go Trenton Simpson, linebacker from Clemson. Definitely could use that linebacker help. Jordan Brooks just got injured this past week, so it's a pretty bad injury there. So could he even miss time since it was so late this year, early next year? So that wouldn't be why they take a linebacker, but they kind of need linebacker help as it is, and that definitely does not help. The Jags could grab another corner. See what they do with Shaq Griffin. Wasn't playing too great because maybe he doesn't fit the new defense, and then got injured for most this year. Has been out for most this year since early. So could they cut or try to trade him? Could use another corner. They got some solid young corners out there, but they could use another one here. Keely Ringo from Georgia could be that guy, and the Jags are running a little bit more man coverage this year. Pretty solid in man. So the Bucs get Bijan Robinson, the top running back in the class. Again, is a tough guy to mock because he's so good, so talented. Safe draft pick. So he could go a lot earlier. But tough one to mock. But the Bucs trying to get that, and they have a number of running backs, but they're trying to get that running game going even more. Add a guy like this. He also can catch the ball out of the backfield, downfield very, very well. But they could just go with Fournette and Rachaad White. It's tough to peg Robinson somewhere. I actually thought about with the Bears at 17. Montgomery's a free agent. I know they have Herbert, but make that run game even better. So there's multiple spots he can go. Just tough to figure out exactly where he's going to go. Patriots could use tackle help for sure. They might need a couple of them. There are multiple offensive linemen. They got Cole Strange last year, but Anton Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma, had a monster year. Oklahoma's a little disappointing, but he had a great year. Looks very solid as a first-round prospect here. So the Patriots grab that tackle help. Giants take Jordan Addison. They definitely need another receiver. Even though receivers been stepping up, guys like Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, these guys have been stepping up, but some free agents coming up as well. Definitely could use a guy like Addison, just gets that separation. Obviously speedy, quick after the catch there. Ravens go Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama. Big fan of Gibbs. Ravens I keep going back to it, they have a number of backs, but injury concern there, and they almost have these guys constantly on a pitch count. Like they only are allowed this many snaps or carries, and they're probably going to want to stop doing that. And Gibbs' pass catching ability would be so big, it elevate this offense that much more, especially if Lamar Jackson's in there. So I think just a lot more upside as a pass catcher than the current backs. I think it just, the offense has been underwhelming. I think it steps it up a bit more. They would take Addison. If I thought about that. If Addison was still there, they would probably take Jordan Addison. Some other receivers I don't know if they'd like that are available. So they go with Gibbs there, but they definitely do need another receiver. But they go Gibbs out of Alabama. And then the last 8 picks, Kalijah Kancey, defensive lineman from Pittsburgh, who's a stud. I like him a lot. He can move around a bit as well. Seen him even rush off the edge. But I like him a little bit more inside. Pass rush ability, getting pressure from the inside. But it could be what the Chargers kind of wanted out of Tillery, perhaps. But more athleticism, way more explosiveness. It fits today's era in a guy like Kancey here. And the Bengals grabbed their offense lineman Darnell Wright, who had a fantastic year for Tennessee. Could he replace? Do they keep going with Jonah Williams, who's been, a little up and down. And then Leo Collins got injured at the end of this year. He's not going to be around forever, so definitely could use a tackle here. Vikings grab their corner of the future, Joey Porter Jr. Patrick Peterson had a pretty good year, not going to be around forever. And I mean, Dancer's all right. You could get better at that spot too, but they're trying to run more man coverage, so they get a guy like Porter Jr. Cowboys grab a corner as well. Devon Witherspoon feels like a Cowboys corner, physical corner, flies around the football field there. Extremely athletic as well. He had a very good year for Illinois, pretty solid defense. Broncos, from a couple of trades, they end up landing this, but this really is from the Bradley Chubb trade. They get Isaiah Foskey, so they get that, kind of replacing Bradley Chubb here, which they have a number of guys that can play there, so it's not really a must, but I like the value here in Foskey, who had back-to-back monster seasons. Notre Dame's all-time leader in sacks, pretty impressive. Bills need some offensive line help. Saffold's a guy getting up there in age, obviously. Get Osiris Torrance from Florida, plug-and-play guard for them. Chiefs, I like something going on with Kayshon Boutte because he was he went back to school and then changed his mind. I'm going to declare for the draft, and there's some, I see it all over Twitter. Something going on there, so we'll see what that's about. But very talented receiver. I like him as a Juju Smith-Schuster replacement. Of course, the Chiefs could bring back Juju, but it's a one-year deal, and they want to keep that receiver group talented, as they can. Obviously no Tyreek Hill anymore, so getting some more talent in there could be big. And then the Eagles, with their last pick, and I'm taking a corner with the first one. Now Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State, like to fit him in Philly. Always looking for more pass rush help, and seems like unfortunately they quite a bit. They get some injuries at the position there, and could be losing a guy, this offseason and then another guy next offseason. So kind of looking out for that as well. Verse is a tough one as well. Could go a lot earlier in this. You like the upside, only 1 year at the level of FBS, playing for Florida State, Albany before that. So interesting prospect here. So we've seen some changes, and you're starting at the top with CJ Stroud, who feels like a number one player, number one overall pick, looking more and more pro ready, eye-popping moments, things that you just cannot coach. Also has a prototypical size, which maybe is the knock from another great prospect in a guy like Bryce Young. So that things are getting interesting here, but the playoff games were so fun. These bowl games in general have been so fun, and they've changed some things, so we still have more bowl games. It's actually halftime of the Rose Bowl as I'm recording this, and then we have the national championship game, of course, as well, with some NFL talent in there. So some other running backs, I think I told you last time. Tank Bigsby I like a lot. Kenny McIntosh had a monster game for Georgia. You see the speed on him. There was some talk going into this year when there was not a whole lot known about him, not a ton, a bit, but he's been really good, obviously. So some receivers we just left outside, some corners, a couple more pass rushers. So there's some good players left on the outside here, and it's just unfortunate there's 31 picks in the first round. The Dolphins had to forfeit that pick, but that's going to wrap it up for the updated mock post semifinal games and a lot of bowl games. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're always talking with you guys on Twitter, so it's a must follow. Links pinned in the comments for that, as well as some other things that are important. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.